Desculpa, pessoal. My microphone was muted. I will say all again. Olá, pessoal. Então, estávamos sem áudio, mas tudo que eu falei foram só coisas boas até agora. Eu vou repetir tudo. Olá, cervejeiros, sommeliers, entusiastas de cerveja. Bem-vindos ao nosso último episódio da primeira temporada sobre madeira. E a gente tem aqui como convidado para nos ajudar a finalizar essa série ninguém mais, ninguém menos que o Peter Bouckaert, coautor do livro Wood and Beer, que foi o livro que a gente usou para começar a série, nossa maior referência sobre cerveja. O Peter está aqui. Hi Peter, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm really good. What do you drink, Peter?
Oh, I drink barrel number 9 blended with our experimental hoppy beer that we're serving as smooth hopped number 9 this week.
It's a sour hoppy beer or not sour?
Yeah, so it's a sour beer from barrel number 9, but then on the hoppy side we had a hoppy beer that had 4 experimental hops from Hopsteiner.
Para quem não conhece, minha última fala aqui em português, o Peter, ele além de autor do livro, trabalhou por 10 anos na Rodenbach, trabalhou na New Belgium e está aqui hoje para ser o nosso maior convidado. Thank you for joining us tonight. Please introduce yourself, Peter. I know you. I hear a lot of podcasts or interviews you are. I'm a big fan of you and the way you think about beer, and it's a huge pleasure to have you tonight with us.
Okay, thanks. So, in the light of this talk, where we're going to talk about wood and beer, I kind of have to say that I have grown up with wood in brewing. I always, or maybe by accident, started with wood, and I always have carried wood except for one brewery. My own brewery I started in Belgium was the only one that I worked in that didn't have wood. So I started in a brewery called Rodenbach in Belgium. As basically head of production there. As a young brewing engineer, it was a pretty exciting position. Do you have a lot of noise here around us or not?
Yeah, but
or is it okay?
It's not. It's okay.
Okay, so I was responsible for everything in that brewery, from the beer making side, from buying raw materials to basically getting it into a package and do the planning from how much we were going to sell. So I had to do everything there. So it was a fantastic job as a young brewer, but the weird part was that we fermented with a mixed fermentation. That we used the cool ship spontaneous inoculation. We fermented with a mixed culture that had lactobacilli and yeast and some other critters. And then afterwards it went into lactic acidification mode in stainless tanks that at 15 Celsius for a couple of weeks. And then it went for 2 years into wooden barrels where we got a more complex sour. And then from there we decided on to blend or to just serve it as such, as a straight up fooder basically. So I started there and then started my own brewery in Belgium for a couple of years while I was still working in Rodenbach. That one we used a mixed fermentation but no wood. And then in '96 I moved to the US and I started in New Belgium. Worked there for 21 years. New Belgium was a relatively small brewery at that point. But it became one of the larger craft breweries. And in 2017, I left New Belgium because I had started my own brewery again in 2016. Again, going very small, purpose brewing now, where I'm
I have
have
some
the pleasure
pictures of
to
your
do
brewery
everything.
here. I'm showing for our viewers. It's really, really nice, your Purpose Brewing.
So I'm actually in the brewery here. So we cannot have customers over, so we can only have one or two customers here in at a time. You see the barrel room behind there. People can sit in the barrel room also, and then behind that we have the brew house, who's a 5 hectoliter system or a 500 liter system. So a very small brewery.
It's small, but it's really nice.
Hmm.
And now you're working in your own brewery, and you have like a lot of really creative beers there, right? Uh, I saw your tap room tonight. Is this tap room working tonight?
Yeah, but so we cannot have sit down. People have to can come in. They can order online, um, and can come in to pick up the beer, or they can just walk in and order here. But we cannot have any sit down. Maybe 2 weeks from here, we can start at the reduced capacity here again in Colorado.
Uh, I see this beer here, Chiquila. Is a good
Tequila.
tequila. Oh, okay, tequila.
Yeah, that one is a beer that we've been blending with a few other things. So you can read it probably on the website. But so our concept is that we only have 4 to 6 beers every week. Uh, and most of the beers change every week. So we're only open 4 days a week. So today we just opened here. It's 4 o'clock here right now in for columns. So we just opened. Um, and we serve yeah, different beers, but we use a lot of creativity in it. A lot of the creativity actually comes from me from Brazilian ingredients, from fruit to wood, um, but spices. It doesn't really matter. We always are looking for something new to use or to do, or do it in a different way. Serve warm beer, serve solid beer. It doesn't matter. We're just playing around.
People say my audio is not working great. Are you listening okay?
I hear you okay, but do people get noise from the tap room here?
But people are saying my audio is bad. Okay, I'm trying
Okay.
to improve it. Uh, I, I will ask you a couple of questions, and when you are answering, I will try to fix it. Uh,
Okay, good.
you have been in Brazil a couple of times, right? You went
Yeah.
here this year for Brazilian Beer Festival, and you have a
Yeah.
lecture there. People really liked of your views about Brazilian beers and our market. What do you think about the beer in Brazil? How is things going? The breweries, the festivals. It's really nice to have a person for other country and its views from us.
Yeah. Um, so I've been a couple of times now in Brazil. The first time I was really surprised about that Brazil was an island. I consider it an island because you guys speak Portuguese and all the rest around you speaking Spanish, but also an island from the fruit and the wood and the ingredients in general that you have. You have such an access to unique things that are growing um, in your country. Your country is also huge, and so there's a lot of climate zones in it. And so I was just blown away by I went to Belo Horizonte. I cannot say that. I have to say the Jonte the first time. And at the on the highway from the airport, they were selling yabuticaba, and I always wanted to make a yabuticaba. I know yabuticaba. I don't know why I enjoy it so much. interview it, but and they were on the highway there, so let's stop, let's try some Jabuticaba. And the first brewery I visited, Uropretana, um, had actually year-round Jabuticaba beer. But this is maybe something you guys don't think about because Jabuticaba grows and you can harvest a couple of times of the year, but you have access to such unique ingredients. Unfortunately, the breweries I see doing a lot of American stuff, I would say it, or maybe Belgian stuff, but it's more American. You guys make IPAs, and
I
you don't
have
grow hops.
about
Eh,
this we were talking. I had this question for my viewers last year, and we got like over 1,000 answers. And I have here, I'm showing here how the styles we produce. And most Brazilian home brewers produce American style IPAs. Over 60% of Brazilian brewers produce IPAs. I see what you say, and we have like less than 10% making Belgian style beers, and we have our Catarina sour style with people making like 1% of the brews brewed here are sours. This is crazy because we have like a lot to
yeah,
use. uh, I think we use these hops like this American style IPAs, and it's really expensive for us, and we can't have this hop as fresh as a brewery in California or in Colorado. You have this fresh, but I always say you have these fruits and these woods, and here I have like uh, the dozens of woods here, and I can try to use this instead of hops and to season beer. I'm a huge fan of this way to brew.
yeah. I'm jealous on what you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a young. What you see in the world is that younger specialty brew countries are focusing on what is hot. And when I started in the US, um, US brewers were making German and English styles. They didn't really know anything of Belgium. We were here in Colorado in the center of the country, and people didn't have any clue. And the brewery was called New Belgium, and they're like, "Oh, New Belgium, that's interesting." Belgium, that's the capital of Brussels, isn't it? Like, why did you call your brewery Belgium? They didn't have any clue that there were specialty beers in Belgium. And that, of course, has changed now with time. Other countries like Brazil or Argentina or um, France or really jumped very early on Belgian style beers. Um, uh, but the US started focusing on that also. But it was only after that that we started working with our hop farmers and trying to get some aromatic hops out there. And because the US was known for alpha, and they were growing alpha. It was a commodity market. The hop growers were not interested because we were way too small, and we really had to be starting to chat with them, go there every year, go a couple of times a year, and say that we were looking for new things. And we created specialty hops. And by being there in the field, determining the moment of harvest, and those are all things you cannot do if you do not here present. And you have so much other ingredients in Brazil that you could use. And so this is, I, when do you harvest cajá? I don't know. When do you harvest aroera? When is the wood that is best? I don't know. You guys can figure that out. You guys have so much interesting stuff that you can optimize for flavor, and you're using American hops, secondhand American hops, because you are not out there to pick the varieties during harvest, and you get basically whatever is left over, whatever the big craft brewers in the US didn't select.
And we pay like a
So
lot of
hey,
money
there's
for it.
so much. Yeah, if I'm using Amburana here, well, I get my Amburana. Oh, I got some from the brewery in Europretana, the brewery Europretana. I got some from their supply, but I got some Amendoine wood, but I got a stave from a Cooper, you know. I just picked a stave. I didn't really, I checked for aroma, but I couldn't really detect aroma, so I just grabbed one. But I'm just a second-hand user of Brazilian ingredients. You guys, or hey, you guys can select the moment that the fruit, the wood, the spice, and we had a cinnamon tree also that I never seen. The spice, you can pick it at the right moment, maybe from the right geography, the coffee, whatever it is. The ipe flowers. Wow, I just grabbed them because we were brewing that day and we threw them in. But when are the ipe flowers aromatic and flavor wise at their peak? You could make a wet hopped ipe, white ipe, yellow ipe flower beer. I don't know. There's so much flavors that are so adapt to be used in beer and to create something that is pure Brazilian.
I'm
Screw
really
America,
astonished
screw
to
the
hear.
Belgians,
It's
screw.
really.
I'm gonna go off my soapbox, okay?
Uh, the next beer I will have is this with Amburana, Castanheira, and Jaqueira. It's the same.
Jaqueira,
Ja-
Kiev.
Jaqueira, Jaqueira.
I,
It's
I
the
never
same
tried
company
Jaqueira.
that produced these small cubes. They produce barrels, they produce beer, and they produce these small cubes.
Wait, I'll show you something. I think I have it here, but I just haven't used it yet. I think it's a. This is my Brazilian wood stack here, but is it this box?
Oh, that's the same one. Nice.
Yeah. So this box I got from Carlos, who's the president of the Brewers Association in Brazil.
Yeah, Carlos Bressani. Uh,
Yeah. Um,
so let's talk how to use wood because I think most people here they do not use wood because it's not a easy thing to. Ixi, perdemos. Estou eu aqui em duas câmeras. Deixa eu chamar ele. Opa, errei. Errei o nome. Nossa, troquei o Bressani pelo Lapoli.
did
Voltou.
I push on the wrong button?
Yeah, but it's okay, no problem.
Do I need to change the angle again?
No, no, it's working pretty good.
Okay. Okay, sorry.
I was saying people here are afraid to use wood and fruit. Are afraid to lose control on the fermentation, and there is no a really good way place to look how much wood use, how long takes the wood to have the aroma passes to the beer, and you can have other bugs from the wood and from the fruits. And I think people are changing, but it is really hard to use wood in beer.
No.
No.
The way I've been doing some research on specialty woods and Brazilian, African, um, some European. We got a little bit of Asian wood also, some New Zealand. And the way we do the first screening, so I'm working with two universities. Not that that's complex, but I'll tell you why. So I just use I split it, the wood, because the first research project that we did was if we saw it up to create dust, that we have a lot of surface content, and but we also produce heat during the sawing, and we lose aromatics. And so we used sawdust, cubes, and split wood or shavings, and the shavings were the best aromatic wise. So now we are only using shavings. And so if I get a piece of wood like for that box, there's some cubes in there. I'm gonna split them. Uh, I create enough surface. I throw them in a relatively neutral beer, a pilsner or whatever, and then let them sit for a finished beer. Let them sit for 2 weeks, and then I invite some friend brewers here in town and those two universities, and we're tasting. And if it tastes good, we're like, wow. I take notes. I take notes from whatever we taste. Um, and I'm working with a Belgian brewer who does that same in Belgium, and we exchange our notes. And if it tastes good, well, then we're like, okay, hey, should we send that over GCMS, kind of see what it comes out of it, because it's an interesting mood, and maybe we can learn something more. And then Michael takes it to his lab and he sends it over GCMC. And he's like, yeah, we were talking about the soapy, slick, or waxy flavor, and I find a lot of C18. Sorry. I find a lot of C18 or C12 carbon chains in there who are related to the soapy. I also find a component that I don't know what it is. And, and maybe I'm going to look a little bit deeper in it if I have some time and maybe some money. And so we just are tasting it out. Once those are really good, initially, sorry, I forget to say that we are always screening for toxicity or but that's just literature search, where we look at are those woods, do they have known components that would be having something. Sometimes there's medical use or alternative medical use that can be interesting to know about, but you check our sources. Okay, so we're beyond the tasting. At that point I'm like, wow, maybe I have enough and I could actually do a keg with this. And so I'm blending it in the cake and it tastes good. I'm serving it here.
Oh yeah.
I'm serving it here today or tomorrow. Oh, sorry, I didn't point that out. All my tap handles there, you barely can see it. Those are Brazilian wood.
Oh,
And there's Jequitiba, there's, oh, what is in there? Balsamo, and I have some, I, I forget it now, the most common wood, Amburana.
Amburana.
And so when people
The
want to smell it, I just turn.
jaqueira, people are saying to me it's jackfruit in English.
Jackfruit, yeah.
Jackfruit
I
tree.
looked it up, but I never worked with it. So, but I know there's some in that box. So I'm just gonna do that same. So I'm gonna take those cubes. I'm gonna split those cubes. I put them in little liter pots. Close them, leave it cold, and we taste it with this group 2 weeks later, and we make notes. That's it, and
That's
then
it.
take it from there. And if it tastes good, yeah.
If
But
it's
the
if
issue with this box specifically is that they're toasted, and we have been toasting wood. Also, we tasted and like, wow, this is really an interesting wood. But maybe we should, and then we toast it in a microwave. We just because we have somebody else who works on wood who helps us in the tasting. And he's like, yeah, do you have some? I'll take it home. And he toasts it, and then we try it toasted. But often, more often than not, I think Brazilian woods are better not toasted because they are already so aromatic.
yeah,
And so the toasting can be actually negative in the process.
I got this. I'm showing you Amburana, but the outer part of the wood, the peel, not the log.
The
And it's
the
so
bark.
aromatic, but so aromatic. It's not as the same as the inner of the wood. I toasted myself in the oven, and this is just resting in water. This is really nice in the other camera here.
Yeah,
Peter,
so Amburana, typically I go very short. I only dry hop for a couple of days. Yeah, I'm tasting daily, and if there's enough Amburana, I stop. I think Amburana extracts better in a low alcohol than it does in high alcohol in distilled. Eh, you have to be very careful with Amburana because it's so flavorful.
yeah, and this Embryon I'm having here is like really, really floral. This is really nice. I want to put this in some beer. I will put this here.
You that's what you need to do. You have access to it. I just get it in my luggage, and customers always look strange to me. Luckily, I flew twice over Belgium and came from Belgium back into the US. And the luggage of wood from Belgium, they're not so suspicious. So I get it in here.
Peter,
Don't tell anybody.
can you talk about the overall process for people, for home brewers and brewers watching our live here? When
The overall
we
process of what?
from when you think about the beer and you mash, you boil, you ferment, and then you put this beer in wood to get sour or just get the uh, wood flavors and all the process, but not. It doesn't need to be too deep because we have like uh, three ways to use wood, in my view, at least three main ways. If you want to have this wood character, just this wood character, I have this imperial stout, and I want the oak flavor. Is a way to use. Uh, you can have a sour beer and use the wood barrel as a way to the bugs grow and have this oxygen going through the wood wall. And you can have totally wild fermentation, which is not exactly as same as this sour, controlled sour. Is this the three ways we can use wood? The three main ways we can use wood?
I struggle with your number two and three. The way I describe it, you have three ways. One is you just do an extraction. You basically dry hop. The dry hopping, all the same considerations are happening. Sorry, maybe I should first mention the three ways. So you dry hop with it. Second is that you put it in a barrel and you have wild or oxidation coming from the barrel and maybe extraction from flavor. Third is where you do extraction from a previous liquid. This barrel has contained hot sauce or rum or I don't know whether it contained wine or beer. And you're going to also extract some of the flavors of that previous usage together with some of the remaining uh, flavors. In dry hopping, I want to stress that there is so much blah 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 nowadays about biotransformation of hops.
Oh man, I had that question here.
Yeah, but there is a lot of biotransformation from wood.
Yeah,
Why
from woods
not?
and malt.
And so malt, it doesn't matter, spices, a lot of the flavor components in nature are bound to glucosides, so you need to cut them off and release them. Or the yeast itself is going to do something and reduce it in a direction or esterify it or make that alcohol into an aldehyde, whatever the different things is that a microorganism can do, it will do it, and um, that's basically biotransformation. So why can you not get biotransformation from whatever
Yeah,
ingredient?
most
Wood is just another ingredient.
these glycoside bonds are really uh, common among all vegetables, and we have in wood, have in malt, have uh, in hops. I heard a podcast you had with the homebrew and brewing podcast, I guess, and you talk about this biotransformation in wood. And to get this biotransformation in wood is just to have this active fermentation while the beer are with the wood.
Yeah, so this is what we learn also from our first tasting. And if it's an interesting wood, we send it over to GC. And on the GC, then we're like, oh, wow, this component is in there. And this is an aldehyde. We could do something with that aldehyde. And we can transform it, reduce it, and make it an alcohol, make it an ester, and make it way more flavorful. And so we, in our screening, the wood that's already interesting, then that professor from Northern Colorado University, he's like, well, you have those components in there. You probably are interested in those. You probably know how to use them and when to use them in a fermentation. And okay, wow. I didn't really taste that, but I can see if we esterify that, flavor threshold is going to go down, and we maybe going to make something different. So we get some information also. As home brewer, you don't know, but you can try. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. What does Ambirana do? Where is it going to go if you add it in the beginning of a fermentation? I don't know.
And
You guys figure it out.
this could be a point of difference of using extract and have the wood itself in the beer.
Yeah, yeah, and split it. Don't use sawdust. Don't use cubes. Split it because you want to have. If you look at the structure of the wood, you want to have it split so that the that the extraction is going to be better. Because the cubes are very ineffective. Sawdust is very ineffective also.
Using wood cubes is ineffective. I'm sorry.
Ineffective, not effective. Because on a cube from a square centimeter, you only have what is it?
Six.
6 square centimeters. Yeah. So if you split that, and I split it typically along the structure of the wood, so I'm splitting it along if the tree grows up. I have a hard time explaining that, but I'm splitting it according to the year lines or uh, perpendicular on that,
Okay.
and that is going to give you the most flavor.
Like to split the cube here.
I cannot really see that, but maybe I can illustrate it.
Okay.
No, I shouldn't try to. Um, but if you look at a barrel here, um, you can see. Let me see a barrel here. I don't know if you're gonna see that well enough.
Okay, I'm seeing.
Where am I?
Yeah.
So here, can you see those white lines?
Yeah.
There's white lines that go like this, and there's earrings that are like this. And so you split it either way, like this or like this. And that is going to give you the most extraction because in the sap carrying channels, where the tree is nurturing itself with, um, you want to use those to the maximum capacity.
I see. You
Eh,
are improving the, uh, as we say in engineering, this parameter diffusivity. How
yes,
easy is
yeah.
to,
So we even try that with barrels. American oak doesn't get quarter sawed compared to split for a French oak. And so we actually made a barrel where we were reversing the staves. And so normally you want to have those white lines who are called, sorry, the medullary rays. You want them across a stave. So because the medullary rays, those white lines on oak, are watertight. But we put them reverse in a barrel, and you got a way better flavor extraction by doing so. You cannot do it on French oak or Mongolian or Asian oak because then it leaks. There's reasons you can read that in the book why it leaks. But we were trying to maximize the penetration of the liquid, being the beer, into the wood.
And
And
at the
so
same
if
time,
you just
does it improves the oxygen transportation through the wood?
yeah, that can be a problem. Eh, I was mentioning it for dry hopping, yeah.
Okay.
So for
Yeah.
dry hopping, that's how you have to split the wood for maximum flavor or liquid penetration, so that you get the best extraction.
This is really great. This smells really great. Castanheira, jackfruit, and amburana. These guys, if you use these cubes, like I like these three cubes, and I want a barrel made with these three cubes. They make a barrel in the proportion you want. It's
A
it's
little
the
bit more complex if you look at some of the Brazilian woods. Some of the Brazilian woods are technically not trees, they're legumes, and so their growth structure is different. But hey, it's not rocket science, you know. I'm not a rocket scientist, so I'm just gonna see if I get. I was thinking I had the blackwood from Brazil, from the Congo. I forget it now, Mongonzo, and that I'm like, this looks so weird, and then you look it up, and it's a legume, and so I tried to split it in different ways to kind of see how the flavor extraction was going to be better, but. We're brewers, you know, we're going for flavor. The only thing we make is 10 minutes of pleasure. So you're going to try to get the maximum pleasure out of whatever ingredient you use. How can you get it out there? And by the moment of harvest, by, I don't know, the part of the tree, I used leaves of oak just before they fell from the trees, because at that point they're so dried out and the oil from the leaves is really concentrated, so the flavor is really concentrated. Wow. Yeah, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I'm also not stupid. I just want concentrated flavor to add to my beer, so I used. And there was a storm coming in, and all the leaves were gonna fall on the ground. So I climbed in the tree the day before, and got the leaves.
that's crazy. That's really nice.
I know it's not crazy. It's just simple, stupid human knowledge or instinct.
For improved distraction, what do you think about to cut the cubes like this is small? Can you see? No, can't. I like this is really small pieces of cubes. This is like wood
Hmm.
chips. Tô mostrando
Yeah,
isso.
but the biggest issue for me is that you cannot apply heat in the making of it, and so if you make cubes by sawing it, the circular saw typically, or even a regular saw, produces a lot of heat, and if you're sawing, you're smelling a lot, so you lose your aroma. And with hops, we have been trying to reduce the kilning temperature and also the pelletizing temperature because we were losing aroma. So that's why I use a chisel and I just split it. And if you feel your chisel, if you feel the wood, there's almost no heat impact. There's also way less aroma that is dispersed at the moment of making the particle.
Yeah, I got
So
it.
I would never use cubes, because they saw them and it's a waste. Just
There's
split
small
it.
cubes.
Yeah,
Okay, like
yeah.
and there's spirals like big ones.
But if you make it yourself, you will know because you will smell. eh, I had Amburana, the Amburana I took from Uropretana. I shaved it in Belgium because I wanted to make it look a little bit more decent wood because it was very rough Amburana that I got. And while I was shaving, the aroma from the Amburana was so great. I'm like, oh shit, I'm losing all the aroma. Yeah? So if you lose aroma, it's the same with hops or roses or whatever. If you smell it, it's a loss. And so you better add it before in your beer before you have the aroma loss. And so therefore you think about how you're gonna prepare the stuff before, or you're gonna maybe use frozen ice frozen CO2 for milling coriander to reduce the loss of aroma while we were milling the coriander. Makes sense, you know why? Because you're milling and it smells. Well, smell is lost, you know. I want to have that aroma in my beer. So how do I preserve the aroma? Can I reduce the temperature? Can I not mill? Can I don't know. But you smell it, you lose it, and you will
You
not get it in your beer.
so you can't smell your raw material. You must smell in the beer. If you smell your raw material being processed, you are losing aroma.
There is something different to that, and that's the story of that single hop plant that we found in Yakima. So we had an 8 hill. So the farmers are crossbreeding. They grow one plant. From one plant, they grow 8 plants. If it's promising, they start with 40 plants. And if it's promising, they go to 1 acre in the US, like a fourth of a hectare or something. Um, but 2 years in a row on an 8 hill, so an 8 plant hop area, we were smelling on the same plant. The farmer was like, "This is exactly the same plant as last year." I'm like, "Oh shit! Scale it up, make it an acre. This plant, not the other 7. This plant specific." And so this is what you need to do with your Brazilian ingredients. You are gonna find that your ambirana, your jiquitiba, your I don't know, jabuticaba, the kaja is going to be really good at a certain moment in time or at a certain location or with a certain fertilization method or growing on a hillside. I don't know what the variables are. And you're going to be like, wow, this is so much better than the stuff from over there. Or when I was here a week ago, it smells so much better. Well, get it at that point. I had,
The
yeah,
the
this
the
is just basic instinct, you know?
the way you talk, it
From,
makes seems things easier and harder at the same time. The
it's
approach
not.
is easier. It's beautiful. Is you smell you. It's good for you. It's good. This is the easy part, but the hard part is you have to smell a lot. You have to know your tree.
Of course.
You have
Yeah,
to
if you're walking in a forest or if you're walking in a field and suddenly you're standing still like, what is this smell? Where is this coming from? And it's funny, but smell is directional. You will have an idea where the smell is coming from. And so try to find that source and go for it. Hey, what is it that smells like this? Oh, wow, is this flower? Or no, it's the leaves. Wow, smell the leaves. Yeah, rip them apart, those leaves, and you're like, wow, this is interesting. Dig up the root. I don't know what it is. But um, any moment in life, we are all smelling so much, except if we're infected with COVID-19. But you're smelling so much, and if it's really an interesting smell, well, do some basic research and look at is there toxicity to this, or what is this plant if you don't even know it, and how would I use this? That's interesting. Is there some starch in it? Should I or maybe
so
I throw it in a boil because it needs. Yeah, you understand what I'm going.
so this is the first way to use wood, like dry hopping. Uh,
Yeah.
Now we have a second way, which is it's not as easy as just dry hop, but you get this more complexity and way more flavors, which is have this beer in a barrel and have a mixed fermentation and get it sour or use Brettanomyces. In which way is this different from the first way? You have the first way, as I understand, you can have pretty much any beer. You have this Pilsner, you have this Vienna Lager, people are saying here in the chat, and you just dry hop wood, leaves, or roots, or even fruits with the beer. Of course, you have all the sanitization and for not get the bugs. as you say in the appendix 2 in your book. But despite of this, the first method is just dry hop. The second one, you have to think about the malt profile, how you ferment the beer, how you mash the beer. It's in a certain point is harder. How can people start in this world of sour and wild beers?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would like to talk first about just the barrel,
Okay,
not
please.
for souring. Okay, so a barrel. If we think about the barrel, I had the honor to visit the cooperage also in Brazil, who was really fantastic on. It was a very small cooperage, and they used very simple tools. I really learned a lot on. I applied some of those tools in Mexico because I was there without tools and I had to do stuff. But now you have the wood. Uh, there's again the flavor extraction. How will you saw the wood is going to be the first question you need to ask. Because how are you going to do flavor extraction? Or is there other physical issues that would be prohibitive to make a barrel? Oak bends very easily, and most other woods don't. So it's often easier to make a fooder shaped barrel, an upstanding fooder, where you leave the wood straight. If you're gonna bend it, a lot of woods can have problems with bending. So you need to see how you can do that. Bending often is done when the moisture content of the wood is relatively high, or maybe I should say and typically they're also going to apply heat. The heat one is an interesting because if you think about heat, you're thinking about glucosides microbiology. So for the oak, then and the established process is that they are going to age the wood for a couple of years, and they actually are leaching out the tannins because oak still has too much tannins. Ambirana doesn't. And so Ambirana, in my eyes, you don't have to age. Maybe you could. You guys figured it out. You have access. Um, but the aging process is first a leaching process of certain flavor components, in this case tannins. The second is there's a microbiological process. There's some mold that actually goes into the wood when the tannins are reduced, and that mold starts to make lower molecules, smaller molecules, because you have a lot of lignin in most of the woods, and lignin is kind of neutral. There's not much you can do with it, but it's basically built out of sugar molecules. And so, do you want to degrade those sugar molecules? It's basically like mashing. And how far do you want to mash? How far do you want to degrade that starch to make some flavor components with it? And then for oak, they're gonna toast or char. The toasting process is basically a Maillard reaction that you're going to apply on the wood. Therefore, you need small molecules, you need sugars, you need protein, and maybe some other substances. And you're going to, due to the heat, make them condense. They actually split off water, and you make a condensation product that tastes completely different. Raw oak, doesn't really taste that good. Toasted oak is really good. Aged toasted oak is fantastic. So, what are you going to do? If you find your ipe there, are you going to age that ipe? Or are you going to just use it as such? How are you going to saw it? Will you toast it or not? Will you char it? And the charring, I'm not such a fan of charring, uh, but some woods can benefit from it. But typically, I would do it with higher moisture content. But okay, but you see, there's a bunch of variables there, like a maltster. They play with the same variables, temperature, moisture content, and then heat towards the end to make flavor. How are you going to make flavor in the wood? So those are the first processes that you're going to have to think about when you make a barrel, because you're going to go into the barrel to make an extraction of flavor. And so, hey, if you talk with a small cooperage that we visited in Belo Horizonte, they did everything custom, you know. You could ask, I want my Jiquitibá, I want to have it aged, put it outside, let the rain fall on it, give it an extraction so that some of the tannins of Jequitibá, who are pretty high, get extracted a bit. And then we'll see. Let's do some toasted tests and let's do some non-toasted tests, make a barrel from each. It sounds complex, but that's how oak barrels got really good. Because people did all those tests. Maybe they were accidents, I don't know. But people were like, wow, this is really better. What the heck did we do with this one? Oh, yeah, there was an older tree. We aged it for 2 years. Wow, how did they come up with it? I don't know. I don't know your wood they have in Brazil, so I don't know. I just taste it in my dry hopping way, and I get a little bit information. But you guys are on the front to create a whole new level of beers. Eh, The day will come that everybody wants to make Brazilian beer because you have so much shit that is so much so beautiful.
And
So
that's
that is really flavor of wood. Eh, is a little bit more complex. Just not make a barrel. I went through the steps where you could look at, and there's maybe others. I don't know. Wow, I need a beer now.
uh,
Think.
when you talk about use this dry hop to know a little bit about the wood. What kind of dry hop are you saying? You are not a big fan of cubes. What do you use for these dry hops? Like this is this Steve's
Staves, yeah.
staves, yeah. Or the wood itself, this pieces of wood. How do you dry hop for your tests?
My first three barrels I got from Brazil were Ambirana, Cedro Rosa, and I forget it now. What was the other one? But I tried it, and then Ambirana, I was like, this is bad. This is way too intense. It was a 5 liter barrel. And so it was way too intense. So I pulled it apart and I started splitting the staves. And I've been dry hopping with that. But
Oh,
it was after filling a beer in that barrel, I was like, wow, Ambrana, it's way too cloying. It makes beer not drinkable if you keep it too long in contact with it. And because it's so saturating as a wood, it's really a good flavor. So I need to reduce the flavor impact, but I want to do. Probably still have them here. Um, but it's again, it's human instinct. You're like, wow, this is a very interesting wood. It's not exactly what I'm going after because in my low alcohol beer compared to a distilled, I get way too much flavor in it, so I need to reduce that. And I want to increase or I want to reduce the time, so I'm just going to split it so that I have more surface on it, so that I get a better extraction. So I dry hop with split staves. Or with bark, I got some bark the second time from um, ah, come on, the brewer in Belo Horizonte, what's his name? Gustavo,
Koala
Koala-san.
Sam. He was with us
Koala-san
like
brought me some.
yeah. He was with us last week. Uh,
Yeah, he mentioned it to me. Uh, but he's one of those experimental brewers who are gonna make beauty. You know, we just need to let them play and see what they do, and he's gonna come up with, oh Peter, if I do this with that and I treat it like this, and you're like, wow, this is interesting. How do you come up with that? And he's like, I don't know, I just did it. And those are the experimentation that are gonna lead to beauty. And we're only here to make 10 minutes of pleasure. So just make 10 minutes of pleasure. How you do it, figure it out.
really nice. And okay, we were talking about the this wood barrels and the way we can test and make our own wood barrels with our woods. and from wood barrels, besides the wood character itself, we can get a place to the bugs to reproduce. Let me ask you a
Hmm.
question. The beers you brew in purpose brewing are all sour beers? Uh,
No,
do you
no,
use wood for this non-sour beers? These straight beers?
no,
No.
no. I'm a brewer. I want to learn every day, and there's so much to be learned still in brewing because we got stuck with lagers, and we learned so much from lagers that we're done learning from lagers, and we forgot to learn from all the rest. And so every day I want to learn. And so for me, I'm a brewer. Just want to have fun. I want to serve beers that are straight fermented. Maybe they're not lagered, or maybe they're still fermenting in your glass. I don't care. They taste good. But I want to question everything in all dimensions, and make beer, And then I have the opportunity. I man the bar also here, uh, at least 2 days in the weekend, and I get feedback. I'm cooking up a beer. I'm literally heating up a beer here, and I serve people with a big spoon. I put it in their glass. I'm like, here, so take care. It's very warm, and maybe let it cool a little bit. Warm your hands on it. What do you think?
I think I'm in
Should I add
love with
something?
this way of see the beer. This is really
Yeah,
great.
but I'm learning. I'm learning every day, and so uh, wood is a tool. There's so many tools that you can use, but the only three ingredients from beer, you know what those are? Those are knowledge, experience, and creativity. And those are the only three ingredients in beer.
Oh
The
my
rest is all
fucking
tools.
god. That's amazing.
Remember,
I'm so happy for having you tonight. I will need to
I'm gonna need
rewatch
more beer
this.
here.
Uh, Feel free to take your beer.
Yeah, I can do that while we're chatting.
Let's see your brewery.
I am, but I'm going to a menu of the week. Yeah, Brett is gonna.
Hey
Uh,
man.
so maybe I do the Pasieros. So we have a beer here. I don't know if you can read it, but I'm ordering this beer here. So rose is Flemish for rose, and passy is a passion fruit, and so it's a blend of quite a bit of different things. So we'll give it a try.
And I'm uh, keeping with my wood aged Castanheira, jackfruit, and Amburana Imperial Stout.
Thanks, Brett.
The importance have to having fun. This is a
It's only beer.
it's what beer is about.
This is my beer now.
Oh,
Uh,
that's amazing, amazing color.
so this one is dry hopped with rose petals. And what else do we use in it? Some hibiscus and red beet for the color. So
Cheers.
cheers. Wow.
uh,
That's why rose petals, ipe flowers. It's not only the wood that is important, the sap from a tree, the roots, the leaves, the branches. It doesn't matter. Hey, if you think about wood, you think about the tree, but what parts of the tree is it exactly that you're going to use? I don't know. Why do we use the flowers from hops? Why don't we use the. Hey, think about it.
yeah,
To me, it's just like you're going to taste it all like, oh, hops, they're really bad. They taste really bad.
you know,
I don't want this anymore.
I really think like the way you see beer, and because we have this like Reinheitsgebot brewers, we just use malt, water, and hops, and this is beer. And this podcast, you said, if you ask for a chief to make a meal with just three ingredients, why and how would you do that? You have like
Yeah, the Reinheitsgebot was just it has changed over the years, and then they went back. But through time and people, or sometimes certain people can use brewers sometimes have to be limited to barley because there's not enough wheat to make bread, and so hey, brewers stop using wheat, make barley, and so it's not the Reinheitsgebot, it's just trying to feed people. That's where the law came from, but it has been taken out of context, and it didn't. The name was not Reinheitsgebot. Also, it doesn't have anything to see with Reinheits, with cleanliness. It has to see with the limitation on what raw materials need to be available for feeding our population. Yeah, that was the 1516 context. There's an 1487 context in Belgium, so outdating the Reinheitsgebot that goes in the same direction, where there was a limitation, and on one side of the river, so where I grew up, we could not use hops. On the other side of the river, they could use hops. The reason why was that they were trying to protect fields from not being putting in hop fields because they had to feed their people with grains, and they don't want to. They can barely feed people with hops, so they forbid brewers to use hops. And so, if you see it in context, it doesn't matter. We live now, we have so much ingredients, we have so much communication. The fact that I'm talking to Brazil right now, uh, then you go to that country, you go to Brazil, and you see what they have. Wow, there's always so much more to explore. But you get my picture.
and let's go on wood and beer.
Micro.
Micro. That's scary. That's scary because majority of Brazilian brewers I have talked are afraid of get these bugs into the brewery and can't get rid of these bugs anymore. And it's not right. It's not. They are not really special. The way you kill Saccharomyces, you kill lactobacillus and kill Pediococcus.
Let me interrupt you. This is
Okay.
the most stupid statement I ever heard. Eh, We've been brewing for what? For 5,000 to 8,000 years? I don't know. Only for a very small sliver in history, we started with using only one microorganism. Very stupid. Nothing in nature is made with one organism. We use only one Saccharomyces cerevisiae. This is the most stupid statement I ever heard. Sales of beer have dropped in volume per capita consumption ever since we started working with one organism. So I don't understand those brewers. They want to use stainless. We only been brewing in stainless for what? For 50 years now? And sales have dropped. Average consumption in the world has dropped since we use stainless. And a French guy, is French known for beer? I never think about France for beer. A French guy told us brewers that we were doing a wrong job. He told us that we had to pasteurize our beer, that we had to work with a single bug called the yeast. At that point, it was a Saccharomyces something, I don't know. And he said, you need to clean up your beers, you have to work with a single yeast. And what happened? Sales dropped. It was a French guy. He wanted to take over the world with wine. And he did it. He did it. He screwed with us. only since 1876 until now, so barely 150 years. And we've been brewing for 8,000 years. And those brewers are afraid? Like, come on. Come on. What have we forgotten? We have forgotten so much that those brewers are now afraid to use barrels to make beer all natural.
You know, we have a really nice thing that happened here in this way you were talking with Kivike East. Do you know Kivike East from?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kivike East started to be a thing here in Brazil like a year and a half ago, and we have this mix of microorganisms from the original ones, and people want these original ones with all the microorganisms were there. There are three big companies here. Hi, take care with Corona.
Yeah.
We have three yeast company here in Brazil, and these companies start to purify and get only one strain of Saccharomyces, and people doesn't want this. They want all the original one because there is this symbiotic relationship between all the bugs, all the micro are there. This happened here, and this is the thing here. Uh, the
I, to me, I always talk about that 8,000 years and 1876 Pasteur. In I know it's risky because now we condition our customers to drink single organisms liquids. Yeah, luckily the wine hasn't done that, or maybe the wine in France hasn't done that. In the US, it's a little bit. They only use one yeast, and but that's stupid, you know. But we have conditioned our customers to drink Brahma or whatever, you know, and they think that that is beer. And I think if a brewer would come back from 200 years and he gets to drink commercial beer that we find now, he was like, wow, this is really bad. What are people drinking? And so we condition people. In the US, we had to go back. We had to start educating people on other countries' beers, that beers can contain spices, maybe has some fruit, maybe has some wood, maybe it has some bugs. And now it comes so far that if you once you have an educated customer, as we have here in Purpose, they are like, "What did you make? Oh wow, this sounds weird." You know, I have a beer and I describe it as a blue cheese that was sitting in a rose field because I blended a barrel that was very intense on the rose character with something that was very blue cheese. And people are coming here like, wow, can I give that a try? Wow, we have educated customers to try this. And so I'm going maybe a long distance. I understand your question about the bugs in wood, but I want to first touch on the philosophy part. So that was the philosophy part. Bugs in wood are kind of very interesting. When I started here on purpose, I only have around 80 barrels because I'm a very small brewery, and I wanted every barrel to be its own so that I could serve it on its own. And so people come here today and they are getting a beer from barrel number 9, or we have a blend from 46 and 48. And so, um, how do you create variety? Well, you create, first of all, a different type of beer. And I've only have a 500-liter brew house, so I can fill one barrel of 225 liter, and then I have 3 kegs left over to serve right away. So non-barrel fermented. Um, so it's a single beer that goes into one barrel. All my barrels are coming from people I respect. So I have 2 winemakers here. One winemaker changed from wine houses, and I have currently barrels from 5 different breweries. I think I have one local distillery that I use. Oh, and I just got one from a distillery in Denver. But so all the people that have given me the barrel, I know. So I know the past. I know kind of how their philosophy is of making whatever liquid they make, and I can use that. In wine, there is already certain microbiology. And I'm often not resistant to hops, but sometimes you can cultivate it to get there. And so I'm just reusing this biotome that I get from the previous user. And then it sits there for a couple of months. I keep everything here at 15 Celsius. That's kind of hard in Brazil. But it sits here for a couple of months, and then I taste it, and I'm like, this barrel, it's not moving. It's I think there 5 months already, and it's pretty much the same still. So I'm gonna have to give it a push. And so the way I give it a push is I never have bought an organism. Uh, I'm tasting a beer because I get a lot of good beers here, and if it's a great beer, if it's a good beer, I drink it. If it's a great beer, it's because the microbiology is really intense or really good in a certain direction. And I always have some barrels listed that barrel number 79 still needs some help. And then I taste that beer and I'm like, oh wow, I think this is what 79 needs. So after I drink it, I carefully keep it cold so that I form a good sediment. I shake up the sediment and in 79 with this beer. So some of it is experience, some of it is knowledge, some of it's creativity, but those are the three ingredients of beer anyway. So I'm just saying, okay, this barrel maybe needs this, I'm going to give it this. And I hope it's going to go in the right direction. But I'm trying to create a synergic effect like sourdough in between those organisms. I hope that they love each other, that they live from each other. I don't know because I don't know what organisms are in there. But I think I know because I have done it now for 35 years. I kind of have it in my fingers. Sometimes I make mistakes, as we all do, and then I dump that beer. Life is
So,
simple.
I think I got the secret here. The
Is there a
secret,
secret?
yeah, this is a really, really secret, which is you must try a lot. You must try, and take notes. Try and take notes. That's basically what you have to do when you want to work with this complex process, which is not an easy process, right?
Yeah, I'm old school. I always have my notebook. It's a pocket-sized notebook, and even when I get drunk, I'm taking notes in there. And I can read my handwriting because I learned that from Michael Jackson, I think, because he was sometimes drunk. You were thinking he was sleeping, and he was still taking notes, and those notes got published. Yeah? And
Okay.
then that evening or the next day, I'm going to my notebook. I'm like, oh shit, what was that? Oh yeah, I remember that was it. Oh, and so I compiled that and in my digital notebook. Um, and so I've been doing that only for as long as I've been brewing, and I keep on adding every day what I learned. What I learned is sometimes funny. It's about financials, or it's about marketing, or I don't know. I don't care.
You have your
What did I
notebook
learn?
and you uh, take notes of everything that can be useful in the future. Nice. I need
Yeah,
to buy
and
a notebook.
but I have it pocket sized that can fit everywhere, so that I can carry it everywhere. And I always have my pen also with me, so I always am ready and armed because whoever you talk to, you will learn. Eh, And I don't know what exactly it's about, but you will learn and grab that piece of knowledge. Um, hey, maybe it's not going to be useful in the next 17 years. It doesn't matter. It's in my book, it's in my electronic book. And then I do a search on, like, what do I know about um, revenue or marketing or jabuticaba or sulfur or tile and all the tiles, and you're like, oh wow, that's interesting. Why the heck is it that in there? Sometimes I'm not good on framing why this piece of knowledge is in my electronic book, but okay, it doesn't matter. You're like, wow, this is interesting. Why did this guy combine this with toasting? Raspberries and toasting. I mean, I never thought about it. Maybe I should try that. And I haven't done anything for 17 years with it. It was just there. Somebody told me. Or I read it somewhere. It doesn't matter. Uh, and so the problem with microbiology, if we want to go back to microbiology in a barrel, is that it's synergistic effects that create flavor. And a lot of it is unknown. And some people are analyzing every bug that they can find. And now with DNA sequencing, we find bugs that we sometimes don't even know the name of the bug, or we don't know what the synergistic effect is, or what the heck it's doing in this barrel. Maybe it's not doing anything because we just found the DNA and that bug happened to be dead. But the synergistic effect is the hard part to learn. And thanks to Louis Pasteur, we try to learn something or a lot, maybe from one yeast, lager yeast. There's a couple lager yeast, but we learned a lot from that. But we don't know anything about all those other bugs. Let's stand that we know anything about how they interact together. And this is what happens everywhere. Hey, if you look at the soil, if you look at a tree, if you look at everything is synergistic. And we try to, because as humans, our brain is too small, try to split it up in things that little parts that we can know. And so we can learn what the lactobacillus delbrueckii does, but we really don't know what it does together with a pediococcus damnosus. Do they love each other? Do they exchange nutrients? Do they exchange information? We just don't know. And so we are just on the verge of knowledge in beer making. We don't know anything except for lager yeast, but who cares about lager yeast?
You have a lot of quotes here tonight. It's really nice. Uh, for people who wants to use to try uh, to use this mixed fermentation, can we have this general tip or something in this way for people who are afraid to use bugs, to use Brettanomyces, to use Pediococcus? What
Some
you
good.
can say for encourage? I know what you said so far is enough, but what you can say about this?
Oh, yeah, they're right because they are screwed and they use single organisms, so they need to protect that weak single organism, that Saccharomyces cerevisiae, from all those other bugs. And so you have to be very rigorous on that. And so it's good to use completely different equipment. Uh, do it in a barrel because that barrel is in contact with your other beers. Uh, there's a lot of not airborneicity that an organism can be airborne. I think this is bullshit in the sense that it's an organism can be bullshit. Sorry, can be airborne. It's like corona, the coronavirus. It gets airborne because it lives in little droplets, but these little droplets need a force to get out of the the habitat. And so in the case of us, it's by sneezing or touching, or I touch my nose and then I leave it somewhere else, but it needs help. It cannot do it on its own. The help it gets in a fermentation is because the CO2 bubbles are rising to the surface and they're popping, but some of that is actually staying in liquid. And if you have a hefty fermentation, that liquid is going to rise out, and some of those organisms can escape from your fermenter. In most post-fermentation wood aging, there is no driving force of airborneicity. There's no fermentation, there's no CO2, vigorous CO2 release that is going to release those organisms. So I wouldn't be that worried about that. But all the rest, If you're gonna touch it, you're gonna wash your hands. If you're gonna use equipment to transfer this beer into whatever you're gonna transfer it, how are you gonna clean that equipment? Eh, um, Maybe I'm going a little bit too far, but Brettanomyces, everything has a Z value. And maybe you know PUs, pasteurization units, but pasteurization units are calculated based on the Z value of an organism. And the Z value basically means how heat resistant is an organism. Brettanomyces is very bad with heat. So if you think you have bread, or you like to work with bread in a beer, well, clean everything hot.
People often think
Hey,
that Brettanomyces have this weird capacity of resist to everything, but it's not true. Heat is an
it is a
example.
very good yeah, it's a very good survivor organism, but heat is really it's very weak against heat. Some lactobacilli are way more heat resistant, but are less chemical resistant, and so you use a peroxide. But you need to think about it. And then most people suggest if you're gonna have barrel transfer equipment, use that only for your barrels. If you're gonna bring it back into your regular process, like a bottle hole or your bright tank, well, at that point you have to deal with all those devices or pieces of equipment that are gonna um, come in contact with that liquid, with that organism in, and then you have to look at the Z value being heat resistance or typically lactopedal or are not very good with oxidative chemicals, so use something oxidative. But what I've done also on our bottle hall initially in New Belgium, maybe it's kind of illustrates my thinking, but so I started using microorganisms and sending them to my bottle hall all kinds of regular beers in New Belgium and big bottle hall, very complicated, a lot of little pieces, gaskets. How the heck do you deal with this? So we did it on Friday evening, the packaging, and then I did a full CLP, full cleaning with caustic acid and an oxidizer, and then I introduced some sugar into the rinsing water and let that sit. Leave it in touch with everything on that filler. And then on Monday morning, you come back in. And you use heat, you use chemicals, you use oxidizer. Basically, if there would be spore formers, you give them time to incubate and basically become an organisms again over the weekend in your filling equipment, and then you hit them again while they're alive because I fed them. I gave them a little bit of sugar, and so I hit them again. That was overkill, but you kind of see my thinking. Yeah? Like, okay, if you are in a hidden format or a format that is not a beer spoiler right now, but you have the potential to be so, I will get you out. I will let you grow and make it very nice, nice temperatures for you, give you some food, and then I'm coming in again. I tell you.
Peter,
Does that?
no, that's great. That's people are in love with you. You know. Yeah, there's like
Whoa.
dozens of people here wanting to have a beer with you right now.
But to me, it's simple in a way. I'm very linear thinking. Like, if I would be an organism, if I'm Corona, COVID 19, what will I do? I'm gonna take some incubation time.
Wait.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me?
Yeah. No, a text from my wife is coming up, but at least I've used. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh
Peter,
shit!
it's. We lost Peter. Vocês vão me ver por dois
You lost
ângulos.
the. But I still hear you. Do you
Uh,
hear me?
yeah, I can hear you, but you must turn your camera on again.
Yeah, let me give that a try, but I'm not positive I can do so. But okay,
Okay.
we hear each other.
Peter, I think we can go for our final questions. We have some questions for you, some really nice questions. Can you answer them before we finish our stream?
Let's see if they're too tough. I'm gonna disappear completely. Yeah.
Okay, you just started. Okay, we have Marcos Stefanes, which is a really good brewer from Santa Catarina, where you have been, I know. Uh, he asking which basis of I think word you prefer to work for making this wood aged beers.
But again, you have to think as the organisms there. How do you want the organisms to live? And so a lot of people are reading about lambic and doing the slime method and the whole difficult production process. In Rodenbach, did completely the reverse. We made something that was very well fermentable, that was gonna eh, really try to get as much sugars fermentable, also provide quite a bit of free amino nitrogen, so break down the proteins quite a bit compared to in the lambic area where they. Do you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you
Okay,
try to turn on your camera?
I tried, but I don't want to mess with it anymore. So,
Okay.
let, but Eronima we made like the most easy word that you could. We use some corn also in it, but our philosophy was that we're gonna use a mixed fermentation, and we wanna get this yeast to get the upper hand. And we wanna make it really tough for the other microorganisms. We don't want to feed them protein. We don't want to feed them a lot of dextrins. We just want to make it very tough for them in those fooders. And because our process, that's what we want in it. And so, eh, if I gonna make a word for something that I'm gonna put in a barrel, I'm gonna think about this barrel. And what did I get out of this? And there's a lot of Brettanomyces in it. Brettanomyces, I can screw it up, you know. It's gonna survive anyway, so I'm not gonna feed it too much. Otherwise, it's gonna be way too um, stinky. The horse table will come in. There's no horse table in, or almost none in a Rodenbach, because we were depriving the nutrients from that Brettanomyces. And so it was there, it was live, but it didn't have enough to make flavor or to be dominant. If you want to make a Brettanomyces dominant, well, then make sure there's sugars that are above 3 glucose units, longer than maltodextrose. Um, give it also some protein or some excessive free amino nitrogen, so the breakdown product of uh, of a protein, and it will become a very Brettanomyces forward beer. If you want to use Bretta because you think Bretta will keep your beer straight into the market, but you don't want a horse stable, well, you throw them away. And so you have to think in function of how will those organisms survive, how will make it tough. And so that also counts for the the micronutrients like the minerals, zinc or magnesium, and how will you feed that organism? How will you make it tough for it? So you need to have some knowledge about that um, uh, microorganism specific. You probably have some experience with that microorganism also, because a Brettanomyces is not a Brettanomyces. There's so much different Brettanomyces. Same like there's different Saccharomyces. There's probably more different Brettanomyces than there is Saccharomyces, but we just don't know because Louis Pasteur, that French guy, made us work with Saccharomyces and we forgot about those. And we just learn what a microorganism needs and then feed it or deprive it from food. This is my philosophy.
Peter, I have one last question for you because I think this is an important question for all we talked
Uh-oh.
tonight. Uh, there is this guy, I don't remember his name, I'm sorry. It's Gustavo Carvalho, Gustavo Oak. He's asking, No, it's not Gustavo. I'm sorry, I don't remember who asked, but he asked if I see this tree. I really like its smell, how it smells. I think it would be great in beer. How can I know I can use this wood in beer? Like a random
Just
tree.
try it. Yeah, if you really like this tree for whatever you like it for, well then try it and
But
dry
but
hop like I was
but
describing it.
he's thinking about this toxicity uh, uh, because
Ah,
a wood can be toxic, right?
mhm. Ask your neighbor what tree it is, and maybe your neighbor is going to be, oh, this is actually. eh, Sometimes there's so many people with so much specific knowledge about something, and your neighbor or the professor or I don't know who it's going to be, he's going to be like, oh yeah, this is this tree. Oh wait, no, wait, maybe it's a subspecies. And somebody will know, and then from there you take your literature research. I sometimes skip that step, if I like the smell, I'm just going to use it, and I'm going to use it in my liter pots and deal with it basically, yeah? And I'm going to taste it.
You
Don't
know,
get a rash. I'm not dead yet.
I have my own way to deal with this. I say to people, go and ask for the elder people there. If they use this wood to
Yeah.
make a tea or some use as some medicine, it's good for you. You can use in beer.
Yeah, and that's where there's always somebody who's gonna know something, and sometimes the way they say to it is a bit cryptic, because you're gonna be on the restroom for a while or whatever they're gonna say, and but you're like, okay. I have a friend that I played soccer with here, who is now dealing with Chinese spices, and so I go there and I smell everything, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, it smells interesting, but you shouldn't use that because it's one of those people that have knowledge about a specific field, and so I trust her." And so sometimes she walks up and she's like, "Hey, I just have a fresh batch of this. Why don't you use this?" I'm like, what is this? Or what is the Latin name? Oh, I have some experience with that. I don't want to use that in dry hopping. And she's like, why not? Eh? And so sometimes I have the experience, sometimes somebody else has the experience. Just find a person with experience. But don't be afraid, and especially in your country, because you have such a unique fauna, or flora, sorry, fauna also, but flora there that you have so much unique stuff. But somebody will know what it is, how they've been using it, or if they don't want to use it, and listen to them, and then take it from there.
Peter, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was incredible. It opened our mind. Well, the people here really liked your job. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sorry for my technological challenges here and disappearing from the screen, but at least we had the voice installer.
I'm gonna start to speak Portuguese, but I will return for you soon. Pessoal, muito obrigado. Esse foi o fim da nossa primeira temporada de série sobre madeira, mas não acabou. A gente vai ter uma segunda temporada. A gente já tem pessoas muito boas para vir. Eu acho que eu não vou mais, talvez, fazer nesse formato de live, porque todo mundo tá enjoado de live aqui nessa quarentena, né? Mas foi extremamente engrandecedor. Eu acho que essa live, ela fechou com tudo que eu queria, porque eu falo desde a primeira live, que eu acho que a madeira é o caminho que a gente tem para se destacar na cerveja. O Peter falou isso de forma majestosa hoje, falou pelo menos umas 5 ou 6 falas aí que foram épicas. Eu queria que se alguém pegou, anotasse e me mandasse depois, porque eu vou postar essas frases com a foto dele 10 vezes no Instagram a partir de agora. Pessoal, muito obrigado e até a próxima. Agora volta o YouTube, volta o Beer School com a programação normal. Valeu, falou!
Muito obrigado.
Ah,